Happy Easter to you all. It was nice that we had in the reading Life of a Great Saint, whose meditation on Jesus was so deep and so intense that he had a mark of stigmata on his palms and feet. Today's topic is the ways to God. First comes, what is God? It's very difficult to define God, but God is something that we have not yet experienced, something that is never changing, permanent, something that was never created. Everything that we see in the world is a result of some causation. It has some cause in the background. God is never caused. It ever exists and ever exists as such. No change, immutable, changeless reality. And it is beyond time, beyond causation, beyond space. It is not confined to a particular area. When we say God exists above the clouds, it's limiting the God. God is something unlimited. We cannot say here is God and here is no God. God is everywhere, unlimited by space. God is now, God will not be tomorrow. No, that is not God. God is not limited by time. And God is not a product of a cause. It has no causation that this thing caused God. God is ever existent. And what is God? God for most of us is Creator, who has created this whole universe, including this earth, including ourselves. We are all products of God. And God is that which is never touched by any misery, any suffering, any sorrow. He is ever blissful. He is ocean of bliss. Hindus define God very nicely. This is God is Sat Chit Ananda. That is the ultimate definition of God that can be thought of without mind. Otherwise, God is unthinkable. What is God? God is. When we reach God, then we know what God is. Whatever we think about God is, we limit God. So when we say God is infinite grace, that also our mind's thinking, but we have our mind and we have to deal with the world, even with the God, what mind we have. So, as far as the mind can think, God is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat is reality. Reality is that which never changes, which ever remains as such. That is reality. Everything else compared to that reality is unreal. Everything is changing. The whole universe is changing. Expanding universe, contracting universe, changing body, changing planets. Everything in the world, universe that we perceive is changing. That's why it is unreal. Only thing that doesn't change is God, reality. And God is Chit. It is not something that exists, but it is consciousness, pure consciousness, the reflection of which makes us conscious. Because God's consciousness works through our body and mind and the world, that's why this body and mind is conscious to perceive the world. God is that consciousness. God is not something that has made him conscious. The very consciousness is God. And how is God? God is Ananda, bliss, never touched by any misery, never touched by any sorrow, any conflict, any delusion. He is full of knowledge. So that is the reading of God through a human mind possible. Otherwise, other than this, God has to be reached to know what God really is. Sri Ramakrishna says, if you want to know about the Queen Victoria during his time, Queen Victoria was the ruler of India. So he said, you have to go and meet Queen. Then you will come to understand what are her military powers, what is her subjects, what are the things. She will tell if you befriend her. If you meet her, she will tell her all about herself to you. She may tell if she likes. So that is about God. If we reach God, we will be able to know full things about God which we cannot think at present. Anything thinking about God will be lessening God from what he or it really is or she really is. So we need to reach God. What will happen by reaching God? Why we seek God? What is the need of God? Why this Saint Francis was so fond of God that he could give up everything of the world and he embraced poverty, the rich man's son. What was there? What attracted him to God? God is the real inner attraction of our soul. God is the inner essence of our soul. God is verily the inner being of our being. God is verily our own true self. Hindus believe that this universe is created by God from what He created, out of Himself. And after creating, God entered, one of the Upanishads says, God after creating, He entered in every bit of His creation. So everything that is here is God. So if there is God in everything and everywhere, then why we seek God? Because we can't perceive. We are blind. We are not opening our eyes. We have no hands to catch God. We have no eyes to see God. That's why some saints said, why do you seek God? You don't have to seek God. Just see God. Open your eyes of wisdom, and you will find God everywhere. But still, we feel God is very far away, perhaps above the clouds, perhaps where we don't know. And that's why we want to reach God. What will happen if we reach God? When we reach God, our wisdom will open. Our sufferings will be over forever. Our fear will go. We will be free from all fear. We will be free from death. We will become immortal. We will become blissful. Nothing can make us miserable if we reach God. How to reach God? What is the way to reach Him? How far He is? Is there any ladder or steps or vehicle we have to take to God? They say God is so close to you. You just have to remove the sense or the feeling or the obstacle that God is far away. Muhammad said, God is so close. It is so palpable. It is like the vein on your neck. So close to yourself. Just the example he has given how close the God is. Hindus say it is the soul of your soul. Shankaracharya says God is like the myrobalan on fruit in a palm of your hand. It's always with you. You don't have to acquire. Just you have to open your hand and see. Just this opening of the hand or opening of the eyes, that is what is meant by the spiritual practice, by the ways to reach God. So what is that reaching God? There are various ways by which we can reach God. Various ways we can just remove our obstacles on the path, this ignorance. So what are the ways? There are 4 main ways to reach God, called yogas. Yoga is reconnecting ourselves with God. We have lost the connection. Mentally we have lost the connection with that divinity. That is the problem. God is ever with us. Just we are forgetful of that. We have lost the connection. So there are 4 ways to reconnect with God. One is the path of knowledge, called Jnana Yoga. What is Jnana Yoga? How do you reach God with Jnana Yoga? Jnana Yoga is worship of God as one's own inmost self. Worship means you adore your own inmost self. Then that means we have to first understand what our self is. What we call myself, what we call I. You have to try to understand that I, search that I, find that I, and you have found God. Your own self and God are not different. You may feel yourself to be limited. In fact, you are not limited. You are unlimited, immortal, uncreated, uncaused. As the God is, that's what you are. When you reach that Atma, then you realize, I am Atma Brahma. Oh, this I is that infinite being. And in my ignorance, I was thinking myself to be limited, unhappy, caused, being born and dying. Oh, it was not. All was wrong thought. It's just a wrong thought that was having. So the path which takes us to our real self and makes us adore that real self is the path of Jnana Yoga. And this self is the dearest to us. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, this self or the Atma is dearer than a son, dearer than wealth, dearer than everything else, because it is innermost. One should meditate upon the self alone as dear. He who meditates upon the self alone as dear, what he holds dear will not perish. He will be always with happiness. Dear ones will be always there. Buddha said, whatever you hold dear is subject to change, modification, separation and decay. When you hold something else other than your own self as dear, wealth as dear, relative as dear, everything will change and separate. That is the law of creation. But what doesn't change your own self, make the self, the real self, as your dearest object. Self-knowledge, what the real self is. There may be various types of study that what the real self is to understand. Once, when it was told that way, once Indra and Virojana, Asura and Deva, Indra represent the Deva and Virojana represent the Asura. They both went to Prajapati, to Creator, to understand the self. They say this self is so dear, self-knowledge, if you attain everything. You know, if you have self-knowledge, you are immortal, you are always happy, you are always wise. Please grant us self-knowledge. What is that self? Who really am I? So, that Prajapati said, go and meditate for 100 years. 32 years first. Go and meditate for 32 years. And then, after that come to me. So, after 32 years of meditation and tapas, both of them went back to Prajapati. Prajapati said, self is what you are. Go and see your image in the pond. Whatever you are, that is yourself. So both go there, and there was a well. Both look there, and there was water in the well. And they saw, the Virojana saw that, oh, I am seeing myself, this body, this face, this is the self that Prajapati said. So he was very happy and went back home. And to his kingdom and to people he said, this body is the self. So try to make this body long living, make this body happy, make this body good looking. That's what the self is. Indra also thought that way, but next moment it came, but the self is unchanging, uncaused, so undying, but this body is ever changing. How can this be self? He didn't go back to heaven, back to his own people, but went back to Prajapati and said, but this doesn't seem, what I saw in the image, doesn't seem to be the real self, because it is not the source of all joy, it is not the permanent thing, it is not uncaused thing, it is not infinite thing, so what is described as the self, it doesn't tally there. So, please teach me about the self. Then Prajapati again said, go and meditate for 32 more years. Like that again and again, 3 times he did, 105 years, 104 years he meditated, and finally he had the knowledge of the self. So those who think that body is the self, myself, I did this, when say your hand did this, I myself thought this is my intellect product. It came from our mind. When we say that way, then we are emphasizing our body and mind, our own self, which is very wrong, and we are acting like a asura. When we identify ourselves as the body and mind, we are asuras, the children of Virojana. When we identify ourselves with the real self, that maybe we have not yet understood what my real self is, that I want to understand, that we become the children of gods. We become Deva. Self-knowledge is the goal of Jnana Yoga, and in the practice of self-knowledge, what has to be done is you have to meditate and think more on the real self, what my real self is. In that the meditation is taking deep into the river of the self. You always start thinking, who am I? That is the constant question going on. I am not this body, I am not this liver, I am not this senses, I am not this mind. Everything changes, ever changing. Sometimes happy, sometimes joyful, sometimes very morose and sad. I cannot be this mind. So always questioning, who am I? And as in those who believe in a particular form of God, they go to pilgrimage, places where God lives, the temples. What is contemplation? What is the pilgrimage for a pursuer of the knowledge of self? Contemplation of the self is the highest pilgrimage for them. And for those people, they can understand the real self by practicing self-control. Self-control is for them the highest virtue. Jnana Yogi finally attains freedom from ignorance, which is the cause of fear, hatred, delusion and death. What is ignorance? Ignorance is considering this whole world as real and considering ourselves to be this body-mind complex. Nothing more than that. Human being has two entities. One is material entity, which is body and mind. Another is spiritual entity, which is unlimited, immaterial. No elements made there. So when we consider ourselves in this ignorance, thinking ourselves with only body and mind, then we are in ignorance and it produces all these defects in life. The cause of the bondage is the ego of the individual self. And what is ego? It is identifying itself with the body and mind out of ignorance. Liberation is freeing ourselves, our consciousness, from the ego. Ultimately, only the self remains, self within and self without. The Jnana Yogi, when he attains freedom, he sees only self. You see that it is the self which is the reality, the Atma, and it is the self which has become this whole creation, whole universe. Nothing else exists but our Atma, the self, one reality. That self has become all. The all is I and bliss, none else exists. Sannyasin bold, say Om Tat Satu, Swami Vivekananda said. The reality is that I, that self, that supreme being which is present in me as the self, has become everything. For a Jnana Yogi, that is nothing. So how can how does it practice this Jnana Yoga? How did it happen? So Jnana Yoga, it said you have to practice Jnana Yoga. First step is discrimination. Always you have to understand, decide what is real and what is unreal. Always try to think, what is permanent and what is impermanent? What is changing and what is unchanging? So whatever is unchanged, whatever is changing, impermanent and unreal, discard that as non-self. And whatever is permanent, real and unchanging, know that to be yourself. Always try to discriminate. This is impermanent, this is all going, this is fragmentary, this is momentary, this is ephemeral, and that is ever changing. Don't try the changing things to make it unchanging. Your attempt will be futile and you will end up in misery. That is delusion. To make this life as, to think that this, whatever exists, whatever position I am in now, it will be ever like this is delusion. And delusion is bondage and bondage creates misery. So after you have practiced discrimination, every moment discrimination, real and unreal, then detachment. Detach yourself from whatever is impermanent, whatever is unreal, whatever is ephemeral. That is detachment. How that will come? That will come through disciplines. You have to practice self-control for that. What are the disciplines? Disciplines are Samadhi, Sakya Sampatti, Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana. What is that? Shama is control of the mind. Control, have full control over mind and senses. And then Uparati, withdraw your mind from unreal things to the real things, to your own self. That the Shastras have said, you have heard that reality is ever unchanging, you are that real entity which is not touched by misery, which is never born, which never dies. Try to emphasize again and again that you are that entity, you are that God in reality, which is never changing. And how will this come? How will I affirm again and again to this reality? For this there is a need for burning desire to have enlightenment. Without that, we will not be able to re-emphasize who we are. We will not try to seek our real self. There should be a burning desire for enlightenment. It is called mumukshutva. I want to be free from this delusion of thinking myself as this limited body and mind. I want to realize, understand who really I am. I want to reach that state. That is called mumukshutva. Emphasize mumukshutva. Have a burning desire for realization of truth in myself. That is the path of Jnana Yoga. Then what is another path? It seems to be quite tough. You have to have control over your mind. You have to discriminate every moment. You have to deny whatever you feel that you are. Whatever you feel that what the world is, you have to deny. No, that is unreal. That is not the world. That is not the reality. That's everything temporary, seeming, fleeting thing. That is not the reality. So it is difficult for many persons. So is there any other way? Those who do not have control over their body and mind and cannot always discriminate between real and unreal and always have the detachment from the unreal and always have the practicing of self-control and burning desire for ultimate knowledge. Is there any way? There is another way called Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is process of concentration. Do you have mind? Can you concentrate your mind? Raja Yoga says, our trouble and our ignorance is because our mind is restless. Because of its restlessness, it produces so many delusions that we cannot find the reality. Reality is deep within us. Just the way, like it says, it compares, like at the bottom of a lake, clear water is there at the bottom of the lake is the substance. You want that substance is the joy. That substance is the reality. If you see that, you are all happy. If you don't see, you are miserable. That happiness is there. And that lake, problem is that lake is always in ripples and waves. You are not able to see. It's so unsmooth surface of the lake that you are not able to see that reality, see that place of joy. What is that wave? That is the restlessness of the mind. Mind is that lake. So if we could control that waves and ripples on the mind, reality will be automatically come to us. Then we'll be able to get and feel that reality. See that reality, seeing that reality is gaining that reality. So Raja Yoga teaches to control the mind. Just control, try to control it. Raja Yoga is a path to unify our apparent self or individual consciousness with our true self. That is, I think, mind, but it wants to unite that. The way of Raja Yoga is to dig deep into the layers of our psychophysical being and discover our true self. Knowledge of our true self alone can put an end to the sorrows and misery of life. All path will say that. What is the path? Methods of Raja Yoga? Raja Yoga says you have to practice austerity. You have to be austerity is control of your ways of life. Control this austerity has been very nicely described in the Gita. I talked about this last time also, that be kind to others, speak good words, make your mind always happy. Mana prasada, somyatam, stairyam, atma vinigraha, have self-control over the mind. And mana prasada, your mind should be always happy and tranquil. Try to make that. That is the control of, that is the austerity of the mind. Bhava samsuddhi, and have the pure thoughts, purity of heart. That is the control of, that is the tapas of the mind, austerity of the mind. Then Raja Yoga also said you need to study something. So adhyaya, what type of study? Study that is related with the control of the mind, with the subject. And surrender your fruits of the result of your action to God. Don't own responsibility for the action you perform. First, don't accept the responsibility for doing good action. Don't think that I did good. Give it credit to God. Then slowly bad action also will come. Generally it happens the reverse way. When we are ignorant, we don't try to own the bad actions. We say, no, I didn't do it. And good actions, we take it, accept it. So we have to reverse first, and then finally all actions will be credited or discredited. God's credit or discredit goes to God. And for practicing beginning Raja Yoga, there are 8 limbs of Raja Yoga. Like first comes Yama, that has certain things to do, you cannot injure others. You have to be very truthful, you have to be very non-covetous, non-greedy, then you have to practice continence, and then non-receiving of gifts, then you have to be clean, then contentment of whatever you have. You don't want many things, contentment. Those all come under the preparation of Raja. Then only you can practice control of mind. Control of mind will not happen by just close you cross your leg and sit down on the ground and close your eyes and try to. For that you need all those things, preparatory, yama and niyama. Then austerity, socha, santosha, tapa, swadhyaya, this time I told you. So Ishvara Parindhana, surrender to God. All action is surrendered to God. Don't take it credit. These are the things which disturb your mind, or always put your mind on ripples. We always have worry for what will come in future, and we are sorrow for what we did in the past. We seldom live in present. So don't take the responsibility of whatever you have done. Know that it is God who makes you do the things. Make yourself an instrument in God. And rely totally to God, and for future whatever has to come, God is the one who will take care. So total surrender to the will of God and surrender of fruits of your action to God will make you free from worries of the past and the thoughts of the future, and you live in the present. Living in the present is very important to practice the Raja Yoga, to practice meditation. And finally after that will come, you have to practice asana, you have to sit for a longer time, then pranayama, breath control, which all help in controlling the mind. The ripples will stop, there will be no waves and ripples. Then pratyahara, then after sitting and controlling breath, calm and peaceful, then you try to bring out the sense organs from sense object. When you sit down, as our tendency is, the sense organs are made such a way that they always are attracted by the objects. And there is a natural pull between sense organs and the object of the sense. I want to see something. Ears want to hear. So they are made that way. They are made of the very same elements. If you read how these elements make this thing, you'll find in the Vedanta psychology that they are made from the same element. They have natural attraction. So try to withdraw that sense organs from the sense object. Don't let it go there. And they give the example, as it is given in the Gita, like the tortoise that withdraw the limb whenever it finds danger. There is danger in pursuing sense objects, that it says. So withdraw, that is called pratyahara. Then the ripples, it's all called ripples, this desires for the sense objects. And then comes dharana, keeping the mind focused on an object for a certain length of time. With the withdrawal of sense organs from the sense objects, your mind will be a little quiet, and then you sit and try to focus on a particular object of meditation. And dharana will be, you for some time, for a few minutes, you are able to fix your mind on that particular object. That becomes dharana. You are forcing your mind to be there. Again, the sense object will try to go to its sense organs will try to go to the sense objects. Bring it. Whenever you become conscious, bring it back to the soul, that I am meditating. And then it becomes, dharana becomes certain time. Then dhyana, dharana, when it is for a little longer, it becomes very natural, effortless. It becomes dhyana. Continuous and effortless concentration on the object of meditation. Dharana is more difficult, you have to withdraw the mind. Dhyana is more simple, effortless. You sit, dharana, you practice dharana so much that after some time you bring back the mind to the object with a force, with an effort. After some time, mind sits on the object and the meditation is effortless. For a long time you are able to think the object of your meditation. And when that meditation matures, then object alone shines. Then you have no feeling that I am meditating. That the object of meditation alone shines. The ripples and waves are quietened. You are one with the object of meditation that was hidden by this wavy, restless mind. Mind has become quiet and calm, and you have attained the truth. When you have attained the truth, before going for the meditation and samadhi, you are an ignorant person, you are a fool. You are aware of yourself as the body and mind, not aware of the reality. When you come out of samadhi, you become a wise man. You see the world with different eyes. Your understanding of the world is different. From your heart, all hatred and greed and anger and fear, all are gone, vanished in samadhi. You have come out a fearless man, a free person, a man of wisdom, a person of knowledge who knows God, who has reached God. So that is ultimate samadhi. It doesn't happen as we talk, it doesn't happen in one sitting, but it is a matter of practice for lifelong practice. Maybe practice for many lives, but the first step for any distance begins from the first step. You begin one step, 1,001 miles of your journey begins with the first step. The first step begins with yama, niyama, asana, pranayama. We practice a little. Then finally we reach that state when our vision will be totally different about ourselves and about the world. Our vision changes according to the change in our own attitude. We can see God outside. We can see self outside. Only if we can see self inside us. When we can see God in us, then only I can see God in you. So we need to change our own knowledge of our own self, then we can see God. That is the method of controlling mind and of having samadhi in deep meditation. The third method is method of karma yoga. Karma yoga is the way to reconnect ourselves with the self or Atma by performing selfless action. It doesn't require anything. It doesn't say anything that you have to meditate or you have to always discriminate and detach. Nothing that. Just do action and it should be selfless. Nothing for your own sake. Everything for others. Go on working as you work. It seems to be a little easier because we are all prone to work. We like to work. We are given to work. And Sri Krishna said in the Gita, you have to work. You cannot stay without work. No one can live even for a moment without action. Just that action has to be made selfless. That becomes karma yoga. And with the purpose that I want to do this work for the good of others, not for myself. I don't seek anything for myself by this work. And that this working in this way, ultimately, the only selfishness you can say is that I want to know the truth. I want to make myself so pure. I want to remove my ego. And I want to know the truth. That much is the thing that you see by doing selfless action. You want to realize God. You want to reach God by selfless action. By working without selfish motive, the egocentric desires, delusions and false hopes designated as bondage of karma, accumulated through selfish motives in this life or previous lives, are destroyed. So we have been working with selfish motive in this life and in also previous life. And that has created a big amount of karma that is accumulated. And that karma has created desires, egocentricness, delusions, falsehood. That is all created by those karma that is in us. So those all karma will be destroyed if we can attain this unselfishness. The root cause of bondage, Karma Yoga says, is neither the world nor the action, but human beings, his or her own attachment. That is the cause of bondage. Be detached, don't seek anything, don't expect anything, go on doing work for the good of the world, and then you find yourself free from ignorance. Karma Yoga aims at transforming the gunas. We all have three types of gunas. Guna is the quality. One is called Tamo Guna, Rajo Guna and Sattva Guna. Tamo Guna is laziness, sleepiness, sloth, delusion. Like those things, Tamo Guna, it doesn't inspire one to work. It just enjoys the sleepiness, the lethargy, laziness. That is Tamo Guna. And there is another one is Rajo Guna, which makes one active, passionate, wants to achieve something, do something. And Raja Guna inspires you to do for yourself. You want name and fame, you want creature comfort, you want to possess things that makes you Raja Guna. And this Tamo Guna has to be transcended into Raja Guna, and Raja Guna has to be transformed into Sattva Guna when you are peace, calm, serene, wise, loving, and yet working for the good of others. You don't seek anything, you don't seek your name and fame. You have already known that name and fame are temporary and they won't last longer. They are for certain days, certain few years. Those do not ever last. So there is nothing in seeking name and fame and wealth. There is nothing really there is nothing there to seek in the name, fame, wealth and creature comforts. You see the life of Saint Francis. He was a rich man, and why? What made him give up everything of the riches? Did he give up his wealth and his easygoing life to embrace something was very difficult and unhappy, and he became sad by that? He became happier by giving up all the things. He was seeking happiness. He was seeking joy. There is more joy in seeking God than in seeking world. Those people who just get detached from the world and worldliness, those really seek greater joy. And in giving up the things, what Jesus said, sell out those what you have and follow me. When we follow God, then we are pursuing right and real and permanent happiness. That's why they pursue God. Why will they follow Jesus? Why will St. Francis give up everything and go and live in and make a church for himself? Why will he say, I'm going to marry with the lady poverty? Poverty, the joy. Wealth, extra wealth, creates trouble. That's what it is. So, then the serene person, Sattva-guna person, when Raja-guna is transcended, there's nothing seeking for himself, nothing to achieve in the world. Only as long as you live, do something good to the world, give happiness to others. That becomes your happiness. What we get by giving others, making others happy and joyful and smiling. When you see others smiling, automatically you are smiling, you don't know. When you see a friend comes inside and smiles, you also smile. Making other person happy, you become happy. That is the real happiness, and that is the cause of Sattva-guna. So, Karma Yoga requires that selfless action. Then there is another path called Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the yoga of love. Reaching God through love and love alone. Nothing else. You love God. How do we love God? We have not seen God. But you have love. Yes, I have love. I love my wife, I love my husband, I love my children, I love my grandchildren, I love my relatives, I love my friend, I love my wealth, I love my possession. You have love. Just gather the love and direct it towards God. Then what will happen? Will I not love my relatives and friends and my people? No, you will be still loving them better than what you loved earlier. Earlier, without God, you loved with selfishness. You sought only your happiness from those things. Now you have real love, seeking their happiness. You love wife still more, seeking wife's happiness. You love your child more, seeking children's happiness. Like that, you will love them more by directing your love towards God. Love God. We have two things here. One is reasoning, one is feeling, emotion. It is handling of emotions and directing towards God is called love. Sri Ramakrishna gave a very nice example. How much we need to love God to reach Him. He says, only three loves you have to combine together. What is that? A wife's love for her husband, chaste wife's love for her husband. Wife loves her husband very much. And mother loves her child. So mother's love for child, too much love. And Sri Ramakrishna gave a third example, a miser's love for his wealth. Worldly man's love for it. They love their wealth as a mother loves her child. In Hindi there is saying, chamdi jai par damri na jai. This means man is ready to give up his skin, but not his wealth, like that thing. So that type of people are there. So they love their wealth too much. We cannot imagine. So combine all this love. Have intense love for God. God cannot stand away from you if you have give so much love for them. You will be able to bind God with your love. Tie God with your love. He will be always with you if you can give so much love to Him. That is the price that we need to go. Devotion, if we have all other qualities also. With devotion comes renunciation. Devotion makes renunciation easy, self-mastery possible, and concentration and meditation natural. With our love for God, our mind will be flowing to Him. And our attachment for other things will become automatically less. Automatically. As Sri Ramakrishna said, when you proceed towards east, west will fall behind. So, automatically, just loving God, will have all other yoga will come to you with love. So, practice of Bhakti Yoga is like being drunk with the bliss of God. as a person drinks alcohol and becomes so drunk, this is also drinking the wine of the bliss of God. Sri Ramakrishna is real with his love for God. Once one drunkard came and he saw Sri Ramakrishna reeling, and he said, "Oh, this man must be drunk with some wine." And he asked that Sri Ramakrishna, "What have you drunk? Can you give me that thing?" He was a drunkard, he always was in search of some wine somewhere. Sri Ramakrishna said, "Yes, I can give you." Then that man, the drunkard, said, "But I want something very foreign, very standard thing." He said, "I will give you such thing that will make you drunk always." So that is the wine of God's love. That is so attraction, that is so much addiction for those who love God. No other thing seems to be joyful for them. Love for God alone is joy for those who love God. In loving God, first comes, love doesn't come as such, just by saying three kinds of love, unite and direct toward doesn't come. So we have to begin from preparatory love, like formal worship, coming to the temple or going to the shrine in our house, bowing down to them, sitting there, trying to see the image if you believe in image of God, or trying to think of God if you believe in formless God. Just sit there for some time and try to feel the presence of God. Try to feel your knowledge, your flows, your love flows for God. Try to generate that love for God. Love also can be developed. We need to develop. Then there is a mantra, repeat some name of God, repeat some prayers. Once in a day, twice in a day. Some religions prescribe 5 times a day prayer. That's so good. Connecting God always. So as many times we are able to connect God like that, there will come a time when it will be continuous flow of our love towards God. And we need to have a chosen ideal that makes our love for God easy. The form of God that we like most, that should be our chosen ideal, that I like this form of God, his actions, Krishna, his Gita teachings, his life, his protecting Arjuna, his guiding friend in difficulty. I like this God, and his flute, and his face, and his love, I like Krishna. Or other can say, I like Mother Kali, so brave, always protecting her children. She fighting in the battle. Always she can do anything to protect her children. If I take refuge with her, I am safe. Even death cannot do anything to me. So Mother Kali becomes my chosen ideal. Or you can say, I love Jesus. What a life of renunciation. How much love, how much forbearance, how much forgiveness. Nowhere that type of life has been seen. Forgiving even those who kill him. So I love Jesus. That becomes chosen deity of yourself. If you like Jesus, you can say, I like Sri Ramakrishna. So fantastic person, so much concern for human beings, so much having cancer, still he will treat any other coming doctor, say don't talk with them. He can't remain without trying to give happiness to others, always praying for others, always seeking that everyone goes towards God and realizes that ultimate reality and experiences that bliss. For everyone who is suffering with egotism, with ignorance, he says, how can we get them to God? That was his feeling. How can we bring everyone that bliss? How people will be wise? How people will be loving God? That was his concern. He was born for that. And every moment of his life, he lived with God. And he radiated that love for God. He loved human beings, not for whom he met. Even those in his dream he saw. I saw that many white persons are worshipping me. So his thought went beyond India, which we never crossed. He always lived in Bengal. He went to UP, Mathura, and Vrindavan and Kashi for some time. Never went too much. But mentally he got connected. He could connect himself to the whole world. That's Sri Ramakrishna. So anyone can be chosen deity. That chosen idea we need to install in our heart and communicate with him. What relation should we have with the chosen deity? You can have any relation, for Bhakti Yoga says. You can treat your chosen ideal as your mother, as your father, as your friend, as your dear beloved, or even as your child. You can treat God as your child. So we need to have some human relation imposed on our relation with God. That will make it easy to connect with God. God is my father. Or God is my mother. That becomes very easy. As I'm a child of God. So as a child, when we run to mother for anything that we seek, that way we run to God. Any danger coming, anything we seek, food, shelter, any danger, any difficulty, bad thoughts coming. I want to have good thoughts. I want to remove my anger. I want to be free from hatred. Trying, not able to do. Run to mother. God, I tried to do that, but why you got angry with that person? That matures Bhakti Yoga. We become more and more closer to God. Ultimately, God fills our everything, and we look to God for everything in life. And you don't have to do anything. Not much renunciation. Says that you don't have to even detach from the world. Automatically, love for God will make you detach from the world. Detach doesn't mean not caring for the world. You will be more caring. Detach from the world, detach from your ignorance, and you will become a wise man. A lover of God is a real saint. This ceremonial worship will ultimately lead, as Swami Vivekananda said, Sandhya merges into Gayatri. Sandhya is elaborate worship. You sit down, do some prayer, and do some postures. That is Sandhya. Then finally what happens? After Sandhya is matured, you sit down, you get automatically connected with God. And meditation becomes started having that. Merges into Gayatri. That's the mantra, you say. And then finally when mantra also repeat, when you mature, your love matures with God, then mantra, then Gayatri merges in Om. Only Om remains. Only essence of the Gayatri remains. And Om merges into formlessness. Then the deity they are worshipping, he becomes formless, infinite. That becomes with the Bhakti Yoga. You also read the same state with Bhakti Yoga. So, what we need to spiritual practice to reach God with one or all, combination of all things is the best suited for this age. Sri Ramakrishna prescribes, Swami Vivekananda also says, you need to practice Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Raja Yoga, meditation, dispassion, detachment, renunciation. And one of the yogas will be prominent, other will be the helping yogas. And when we do this, we need to reach God, we need to have infinite patience. I do it for 1 year and say, I don't find any progress. I think I have not reached nearer to God. God seems to be too far away. Whatever Muhammad says, I don't feel like that God is so close. Whatever the Hindus say, God is in yourself, I don't feel like. You need to have patience. This feeling like this absence of going closer to God, absence of that feeling is obstacle on the path of reaching God. Patience, like this somebody, always waiting. One day will come. Perhaps in this life itself, when I will be face to face with God, when I will realize my true self, when my all selfishness will go, I will become perfectly selfless. That will come in this very life. That wait. Like the somebody waited for Ramachandra. Every day she used to wait that God will come to her hermitage. And from a child to youth, she became old. Every day she used to wait, Rama will come. Finally Rama comes. We need to have that patience in life. And we need to have, egotism has to be reduced. That problem is that our ego, that feeling that I am this, I do this, I think that misunderstood I has to be reduced. And that will come through the practice of humility. What is humility? Humility is keeping ourselves open to what others say. To feel that when we say, I know, in everything it's very customary here to say, when you say something to, I know, that means you don't want to listen what is there. That is lack of humility. So we need to be less firm on saying, I know. That attitude should go. What others say, there might be something new. Be always eager, be like a child to listen what is new, to understand what is new. There are so many things we don't know. Then you appreciate other people. Then you listen to other people, appreciate everything you need to appreciate other things and welcome others saying. So that way you become closer to others. Ever eager, ever active. That is called lack of pramada. And we need to live in the present moment. Count the moments. Am I related to God? Am I thinking of doing a spiritual practice? Am I trying to bring God into my life? So every moment we need to practice that God comes into my life. Every action God has to come in my every action. Every dealing there should be God. So whenever people come and meet, we need to feel that, who is God there in his heart? There are many ways to feel God. In reality, there is nothing but God. But we are not able to see. So how much we can see, as much as our mind gives not this time. So first we can feel that the person whom I see, there is God sitting in his self. So that is the way I can realize God that way. First seeing God is sitting in the heart. Then slowly God has become everyone. That our experience will change, modify, transform, and we'll be able to live. One day we'll be able to reach God, which is everything and which is everywhere.